Okay guys, we're gonna attempt to pull my car up on the ramps this morning. Hang on a second, let me make sure it's in neutral. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Keep going. I was afraid of that. Okay. All right. Okay, the attempt at trying to pull the car up on the ramps did not work. The pickup truck my neighbor had couldn't get traction. All it did was spin the wheels. The car went up about halfway on the ramps, but that was it. So now I've gone to plan B, where I'm just going to use a series of jacks and jack stands to get it as high as I can, like this, and that should work. Okay, here's another short little video. I hope to learn how to combine these short videos into longer ones. Wanted to show you what the brake looked like on the right front wheel now that I got the wheel off. Again, PB blaster, get the lug nuts off. But again, I'm very impressed with how things look. Look at all that material on the brake pads. So the car was pretty well maintained. The brakes are good front and back as far as I can tell. And now under here, you'll see the starter right there. That's the first thing I'm going to take out. It doesn't work anyway, so I'm going to take it out to get access to the flywheel. And then under the center part right here, there's an access plate that will also give me more access to the flywheel. And I'm praying that these 3 jacks are enough to support the car so it doesn't crush me. I think I'll be all right. But I'll say a prayer. And that's it for now. Okay, here's another little short snippet underneath the car. One trick I learned over years is that it's a lot easier to get the starter out if you turn the wheel all the way to the right. That gets that center link out of the way so you can get the starter out. What I was really impressed with and lucked out with greatly was the third bolt. There's 3 bolts to hold the starter, and one's on top that you can't see. So I was able to get in there with an extension and a 1/2-inch socket, and the thing was only hand tight. So I was literally able to just untwist it without a ratchet. That was like bonus. And the bottom 2 came off. The nice thing about an old car like this that's kind of greasy, there's no rust down here, so the bolts aren't stuck. So now the starter is loose, and it should just fall right out. Oh yeah, I disconnected the wire earlier too, but and there you have it. So that was pretty easy for a change. All right, after struggling for a while, it became apparent that I was not going to be able to budge this engine. After getting the starter out and getting the access cover plate off to reach the flywheel, I just could not get the leverage. There just isn't enough room under there to get the leverage I need to try and have any effect. I'm not even sure if I had it up on a lift if I would be able to move it that way. So I'm concluding, as I suspected might happen when I first bought the car, that I'm just going to end up taking that engine apart, either rebuilding it or at least overhauling it. Probably rebuilding it. Done it before. So I'm going to be putting the car back down in a minute, but I noticed when I was under here, I saw power steering fluid, which is actually transmission fluid. That's what the power steering used in 1967, was Type F transmission fluid. It's leaking, and it's the steering gear itself, no lines or anything, which is not unusual. So I've rebuilt those as well. So that'll be another project for the future at some point. And in fact, I'll replace every front end component that's under here eventually, but that's further down the line. Worst case scenario is if I can never get that engine to move, then the entire transmission and engine assembly are going to have to come out in one unit together, because if you can't rotate the engine, you can't get the nuts off the flywheel from the torque converter to separate them. So that'll be a challenge. But anyway, hopefully it won't come to that. And when I get the heads off and all that, maybe I'll be able to get the engine moving at that point. But that'll be a while, sometime in the future. And that's it for the moment. Hello, it is the evening of the 19th of May now. Didn't get as much done today as I was hoping. Ran out of time, had other commitments, and I also spent some time running around trying to find a flex joint, a 5/8 flex joint or universal joint because I tried to get the exhaust pipes tied loose or loosened. I got 3 of the 4 nuts off. They came out pretty easy, but one of them is in a very tight space that you have to have a universal joint that's not too deep, not too shallow. The one I had was too shallow, and I finally found one at my mechanic's, but I didn't have time to try it out. So anyway, as you can see, the car is jacked up. Could not get it up on the ramps after all. And in fact, it worked out better this way anyway, because in order to get the starter motor out, you have to rotate the wheels all the way to the right, like they are now, I believe. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to get that starter out. And after trying multiple times, I could not budge that engine, no matter what I did. So the idea of using the flywheel to pry on it, there just wasn't enough room down there to really get a good place to pry, and I'm not sure it would have worked anyway. So I made the decision that I'm just going to start disassembling the engine, which is why I was disconnecting the exhaust pipes. Once I get that done, then I can lower the car back on the ground. I really don't like having it sit like this overnight, but like I said, I ran out of time. So I think that's all I really did on the car today, was just trying to see about that engine. I knew when I bought the car that there was a good possibility I was going to be rebuilding the engine or overhauling it. My plan now is to just take the top end off, take the heads off, those exhaust manifolds. I'm going to attempt to leave them attached to the heads, even though that makes it a lot heavier assembly, because it's very difficult in this tight engine compartment to try to get the bolts off that hold the manifolds to the heads. So anyway, tomorrow I should be able to get the exhaust pipes disconnected and then get this thing back on the ground. And I think that's it for the day. Thank you.